Please don't take my box. Elderly couple opens abandoned storage and finds a little girl's hidden plea for help. The child's handwriting trembled across the cardboard in fading purple crayon. Please don't take my box. Mama said she's coming back. Margaret Chen's hands shook as she held the flashlight steady, illuminating words that shouldn't exist in a storage unit abandoned for 7 years. Words that transformed a simple auction win into something that made her 73-year-old heart hammer against her ribs like a warning. Wait, before the next revelation happens, if this mystery has already captivated you, tell us where you're watching from. And to make sure you don't miss any unexpected alliances or life-changing discoveries, subscribe and join our circle. The game is about to change. Now, back to the scene. "Arthur," Margaret whispered, though her husband stood right beside her in the cramped unit at Storage Max on the eastern edge of Phoenix. "Arthur, look at this." Arthur Chen adjusted his bifocals, leaning closer to the cardboard box his wife had just opened. The unit smelled of dust and trapped heat, that particular staleness of spaces sealed away from the world. They'd won the auction for $300. Their retirement hobby, hunting for forgotten treasures to resell at weekend markets. In 4 years, they'd never found anything that made Margaret's voice sound like that, like she'd stumbled onto something sacred, or cursed. The box itself was unremarkable, medium-sized, once used for shipping, the kind you could get free behind any grocery store. But covering every visible surface, inside and out, were drawings, a child's drawings. Crude stick figures holding hands, a house with a triangular roof and smoke from the chimney, flowers, a sun with a smiling face. And everywhere, scattered among the cheerful images, those same words repeated in various sizes and colors. "Please don't take my box." "Maybe it's just," Arthur started, then stopped. Just what? Just a child's abandoned toy box? The drawings showed progression, the early ones barely recognizable as human figures, the later ones more detailed, more desperate. The crayon strokes grew heavier toward the bottom of the box, where the purple words had been traced over and over until they'd torn through the cardboard in places. Margaret carefully lifted the first layer of contents. Clothes. Little girls' clothes, sizes suggesting maybe 5 to 7 years old. A pink t-shirt with a faded unicorn. Denim shorts with a grass stain on one knee. A jacket, red, puffy, the kind sold at discount stores for $20. Each item had been folded with care that seemed beyond a child's ability. Beneath the clothes, a stuffed rabbit, gray and worn threadbare in places where small hands had gripped it. A child's cup, plastic, decorated with cartoon characters Margaret didn't recognize. A coloring book, maybe half completed, showing the same progression from scribbles to increasingly careful attempts to stay within the lines. "There's more," Arthur said quietly, pointing to the back corner of the unit. The storage space was 10 by 10, and they'd barely scratched the surface. In the dim light from their flashlights and the single bare bulb overhead, Margaret could make out at least a dozen more boxes. Some marked with more childish writing, others in adult handwriting, hasty, slanted, like someone had been in a terrible hurry. Arthur moved toward the nearest box marked in adult script, "Lily's school stuff." His weathered hands, carpenter's hands, even after 15 years of retirement, hesitated before opening it. "Should we?" Margaret asked. "Maybe we should call someone." "Call who? We bought it legal." But Arthur's voice carried no conviction. They both knew this felt different. In 4 years of storage unit auctions, they'd found abandoned furniture, outdated electronics, boxes of someone's college textbooks, once even a collection of vintage vinyl that had paid for a weekend in Sedona. Never anything that felt like trespassing on tragedy. Margaret made the decision for both of them. She opened the box marked Lily's school stuff. Report cards. Lily Anderson, grade 1 at Desert Vista Elementary. The school was 3 miles from this storage facility. Margaret knew it. She'd volunteered there years ago, reading to first graders every Tuesday morning until her knees got too bad for the drive. Lily Anderson, excellent progress in reading, struggles with math concepts. A delight to have in class, Mrs. Patterson's looping signature. The date, May 2016. 7 years ago, almost exactly. Beneath the report cards, drawings, so many drawings. A child's artistic chronicle of her world. Mama with long brown hair. Mama and Lily holding hands. Lily and Mama and a dog. No, wait, the caption read, Mr. Whiskers, cat. The cat appeared in several drawings, always orange, always with an oversized smile. Then the drawings changed. Mama with tears. Mama lying down, with Lily standing beside the bed, holding what might have been a tray or a book, hard to tell from a 7-year-old's perspective. Mama with X's over her eyes in one picture that made Margaret's throat tighten. Lily alone, a single stick figure in the center of the page, surrounded by empty space. Arthur! Margaret's voice cracked. She held up a drawing dated in a child's careful printing, August 30, 2016. The image showed 2 stick figures, one big, one small, and a box between them. Words in purple crayon. Mama says we have to keep my box safe until she comes back. Arthur had moved to another container, this one a large plastic storage bin. He'd gone very still. When he looked up at Margaret, his eyes held something she'd seen only twice before, when his brother died and when their daughter Sarah moved to Boston with the grandchildren. Margaret, you need to see this. Inside the plastic bin, legal documents. Eviction notices dated September 2016 for an address on East McDowell Road. Final warnings from Arizona Public Service about disconnected electricity. Medical bills, not the summary kind, but the detailed hospital billing statements that ran to dozens of pages. Phoenix Children's Hospital, Phoenix General, Banner Estrella Medical Center. Patient name, Rebecca Anderson. Dozens of bills, hundreds of thousands of dollars. The diagnosis codes meant nothing to Margaret, but the department names told a story. Oncology, radiation therapy, palliative care. Beneath the medical papers, a lease agreement for this very storage unit, signed by Rebecca Anderson on September 15, 2016. The monthly rate, $85. A handwritten note paperclipped to the contract. Paid 6 months in advance. Will pay more when I can. Please keep safe. My daughter's things. She was sick, Margaret said unnecessarily. She was dying, and she was trying to save her daughter's belongings. Arthur unfolded a document that had been wedged along the side of the bin. A printout from the Arizona Department of Child Safety. Foster care placement notification for Lily Marie Anderson, age 7, placed with emergency foster family on September 18, 2016. Mother, Rebecca Anderson, currently hospitalized, unable to provide care. Father, unknown, not listed on birth certificate. The 6-month prepayment would have run out in March 2017. The storage facility's records showed the unit went into default in April 2017. It had sat, accumulating late fees and auction warnings for 6 years before finally being sold to pay the debt. Rebecca Anderson had paid to protect her daughter's childhood for 6 months, probably hoping it would be enough time. That shed, get better. Get Lily back. Retrieve these carefully preserved fragments of their life together. The stuffed rabbit, the clothes she'd outgrow, the box covered in reassurances. Mama said she's coming back. Margaret sat down on a larger box, her legs suddenly unreliable. The concrete floor of the storage unit felt cold through her canvas shoes. Above them, the Phoenix afternoon sun made the metal roof tick and groan with heat, but inside this sealed rectangle of rented space, everything felt frozen in September 2016. "We have to find her," Margaret said. "Lily, we have to find the girl." Arthur rubbed his face with both hands, a gesture she knew meant he was thinking hard, working through options. She'd be, what, 14 now? 15? Margaret, she could be anywhere. Foster care, adopted, moved out of state. Or we could walk into that elementary school and ask, Desert Vista, they'd have records. They won't just tell us. Privacy laws, Margaret. We can't walk in off the street asking about a child in the system. Margaret stood, her knees protesting, her resolve firmer than her joints. Then we find another way. We have her name, we have her birthday, it's on these report cards. We have... She trailed off, moving back to the first box, the one covered in purple crayon please. She began removing items more carefully now, treating them like archaeological artifacts. The clothes, the rabbit, the cup, the coloring book. At the bottom of the box, wrapped in a child's t-shirt, a photograph in a wooden frame, cracked glass held together with tape. A woman, mid-30s maybe, with long brown hair just like Lily's drawings, smiled at the camera. She held a little girl, maybe 6 years old, with the same brown hair, the same smile. They stood in front of a birthday cake, shaped like a unicorn, 6 candles blazing. The little girl's expression showed pure joy, the kind of happiness that exists before you learn the world can hurt you. On the back of the frame, best day ever. Love, Mama. 1 year before everything fell apart. Margaret turned the frame over and over in her hands. The mother's smile showed no shadow of what was coming. The daughter's joy held no premonition. Just a moment of light, preserved in cheap glass and discount store framing. "We have to try," Margaret said quietly. "Even if it's impossible, even if she's been adopted by someone wonderful and has a whole new life and doesn't want to remember any of this, we have to try to return what was saved, what her mother fought to preserve." Arthur was quiet for a long moment, studying the boxes stacked around them. Lily's school stuff, Lily's toys, Lily's books, Lily's clothes by size. Margaret could see now that there were multiple boxes organized by age, as if Rebecca had packed away each outgrown stage of her daughter's childhood, creating a physical timeline of growth. "All right," Arthur said finally, "we try. But Margaret, if we do this, if we find her and she's with a family who loves her, who's given her a good life, we might be opening wounds that have healed. Sometimes the kindest thing is to let the past stay past." "And sometimes," Margaret countered, touching the purple crayon words with one finger, "the past is all we have left of the people who loved us. Her mother is probably dead, Arthur, probably died in 2017, maybe even before that. And this girl, this teenage girl somewhere, might not have anything left of the woman who fought to save these boxes for her. Nothing, except what we're standing in right now." Arthur nodded slowly. He began examining the other boxes, reading labels, taking mental inventory. "We'll need to document everything, photographs, lists. If we're going to try to return this, we need to know exactly what we have." They worked through the afternoon, both of them moving with a carefulness that had nothing to do with resale value. Margaret photographed every box, every item, every drawing. Arthur created a spreadsheet on his phone, listing contents and locations. They didn't speak much, but they moved in the synchronized way of people who'd been married 47 years, each anticipating the other's movements. In the third box, Margaret found a journal. Not Lily's, the handwriting was adult, cramped, sometimes shaky. Rebecca's journal, entries dating from May 2016 through August of the same year. Margaret almost didn't open it. Some privacy shouldn't be violated. But understanding the mother might be the key to finding the daughter. The early entries were mundane. Grocery lists, reminders about Lily's school events, a note about Mr. Whiskers needing his shots. Then, May 18, 2016. Doctor confirmed what I already knew. Stage 4. They used words like aggressive and limited options and looked at me with those sad eyes. I didn't cry in the office. Waited until I got to the car. Lily was at school. Thank God she was at school. May 20, 2016. Told Lily I have a sickness, but the doctors are helping. She asked if I would die like her goldfish died. I said no. I lied to my daughter's face. She's 7 years old, and I lied to her. Margaret's vision blurred. She wiped her eyes quickly, aware of Arthur watching her with concern. June 3, 2016. Started chemo. Lily made me a drawing of us holding hands with flowers all around. She said flowers make everything better. I taped it to the bathroom mirror so I can see it when I'm sick. June 30, 2016. I can't work anymore. Boss was understanding, but understanding doesn't pay rent. Hospital bills are already more than I'll ever pay. They say not to worry about it now. Easy for them to say. The entries grew shorter, shakier. July 15, 2016. Lily asked why I sleep so much. Told her I'm getting better, but it takes rest. More lies. I'm so tired of lying. Just tired. August 12, 2016. Got eviction notice. 30 days. I've been paying for this storage unit instead of rent because I need to keep her things safe. When they take her from me, and they will, I know they will, she needs to have her childhood, her clothes, her toys, proof that she was loved. August 25, 2016. Lily helped me pack her special box today. Didn't tell her why. Said we were organizing. She wrote on every side, "Please don't take my box." She thinks someone might steal it. She doesn't understand. I'm packing it because I'm the one being taken. Not by thieves, by cancer, by poverty, by a system that doesn't have space for mothers dying and daughters who need more than the state can give. August 30, 2016. Paid 6-month storage. Used the last of my savings. 6 months. In 6 months, maybe I'll be better. Maybe I'll get Lily back. Maybe miracles happen. The doctor says I have weeks, maybe 2 months. I choose to believe in 6-month miracles. The final entry. September 14th, 2016. They're taking her tomorrow. Foster placement while I'm hospitalized. Emergency custody. Temporary, they say. Everything's temporary. Life is temporary. I told Lily I'd come back for her. I told her I'd come back for her box. I told her so many things I don't know if I can keep true. But I meant them. I meant every word. The journal ended there. No resolution. No final entry marking peace or acceptance. Just a mother's voice cutting off mid-hope, mid-prayer, mid-lie, told to comfort a 7-year-old who needed to believe her mama was coming back. Margaret closed the journal carefully, as if rough handling might break whatever spell kept these words preserved. She looked at Arthur, who had found a box of Lily's artwork and was staring at a picture of a woman and child inside a heart. September 14th was when she signed the storage lease, Margaret said. The next day. She wrote that entry the night before they took Lily away, then came here and paid for 6 months of hope. The medical records, Arthur said quietly. Did you see a death certificate? Margaret hadn't. She went back to the plastic bin, sifting through papers more carefully now. Hospital bills, treatment records, a DNR order signed on October 2nd, 2016. More bills. A notice about cremation services. A brochure for grief counseling for children. No death certificate, but a letter from Phoenix General Hospital dated November 7, 2016, addressed to whom it may concern, stating that Rebecca Marie Anderson, patient number 3847-92, had expired on November 3, 2016 at 4:47 a.m. Next of kin, Lily Marie Anderson, minor, currently in state custody. Rebecca Anderson had lasted 6 weeks from her last journal entry. She'd never made it to the 6-month miracle she'd paid for. The storage unit felt smaller now, pressing in with the weight of one woman's last attempt to control what she could control, preserve what she could preserve, give her daughter something to hold on to in a world that was taking everything else away. Margaret found herself crying, not the polite tears that came at sad movies, but the full-body sobs that came from somewhere deeper. Arthur moved to her side, his arm around her shoulders, both of them standing in this rectangle of rented space that had become a tomb of intentions. "We find her," Arthur said, and this time it wasn't a question or a debate. We find Lily Anderson and we give her back her box. And all the rest of this, every drawing, every piece of clothing, every proof that she was loved. Margaret nodded against his shoulder. "How?" "I know someone," Arthur said, "from the contracting days. His daughter works for DCS, Department of Child Safety, Family Services. She might be able to at least tell us if Lily's still in Arizona, still in the system, whether she was adopted. I'll call him tonight." They locked up the storage unit at dusk, leaving everything exactly as they documented it. In the car, Margaret held the photograph, Lily's 6th birthday, and thought about the 7-year-old girl who'd written, "Please don't take my box," over and over, believing her mama would come back for it, come back for her. That night, Margaret couldn't sleep. She sat at the kitchen table with her laptop, searching. Lily Anderson, Arizona yielded nothing useful. Too common a name. Rebecca Anderson, Phoenix obituary brought up several results, but none matched their Rebecca. The woman had died owing hundreds of thousands in medical debt, in a rented apartment she'd been evicted from, with a daughter in state custody. Not the kind of death that got obituaries in newspapers. Arthur made the call the next morning to his old contractor friend, Bill Morrison. Margaret heard only one side of the conversation, but she could fill in the gaps. "Bill? Arthur Chen. Yeah, been a while. Listen, I need to ask you something unusual. Your daughter? She's still with DCS? Yeah, I know, there are privacy laws. I'm not asking her to break any. No, nothing like that. We bought a storage unit at auction and—" The explanation took 10 minutes. Arthur was thorough, describing what they'd found, what they'd read, why they wanted to find Lily Anderson. When he hung up, he looked exhausted. "He's going to talk to his daughter. Jill, her name is. She'll call us directly if there's anything she can share without violating confidentiality. He says not to get our hopes up. Systems overburdened, records get complicated, kids move around." The call came 3 days later. Margaret was weeding the front garden, her hands deep in dirt that was easier to manage than the emotions of the past 72 hours. Arthur brought the phone outside, his expression unreadable. "It's Jill Morrison, from DCS. She wants to talk to both of us." They sat side by side on the porch swing, Arthur holding the phone between them on speaker. Jill Morrison's voice was professional but not unkind. "Mr. and Mrs. Chen, my father explained your situation. I've looked into the case file for Lily Anderson. I need to be very clear about what I can and cannot tell you." "We understand," Margaret said. "We're not trying to cause trouble. We just want to return her mother's belongings. I appreciate that, and I believe your intentions are good." Jill paused, and in that pause, Margaret heard the weight of a system overwhelmed by too many broken families, too many children, not enough solutions. Lily Anderson is currently in foster care. She's 14 years old. She's had multiple placements over the past 7 years. Multiple placements. The euphemism landed heavy. Margaret understood. Lily had been moved from home to home, family to family, never quite finding a permanent place, never adopted, never settled. "She's in Phoenix?" Arthur asked. "I can't provide specific location information. What I can tell you is that any attempt to contact her directly would need to go through official channels. However," another pause, "however, I've reviewed your documentation, the photos you sent my father. The contents of that storage unit represent personal property that belonged to the minor. Technically, you purchased the unit legally, which transfers ownership to you. But if you wanted to donate those items back to their original owner, that would be a kindness. How? Margaret leaned closer to the phone. How do we do that? I can serve as an intermediary. I can reach out to Lily's current caseworker, explain the situation, and ask if Lily would like to receive her mother's belongings. If she agrees, we can arrange a transfer through official channels. I can't promise she'll say yes. She might not want to revisit that part of her life. She was 7 when she lost her mother. Those memories might be painful. Or they might be all she has, Margaret said quietly, of the woman who loved her enough to spend her last dollars keeping a storage unit paid for 6 months. Who believed in 6-month miracles? Silence on the line. Then, I read the journal entries you mentioned. Mrs. Chen, I'm not supposed to get emotionally involved in cases. I see hundreds of families every year, but I'm going to do everything I can to make this happen. Give me your contact information, and I'll reach out to Lily's caseworker today. They gave Jill Morrison their phone number, email, home address. When the call ended, Margaret and Arthur sat on the porch swing, not speaking, just moving slowly back and forth in the May morning warmth. What if she doesn't want it? Margaret finally asked. What if she's built a whole new life and these boxes are just reminders of loss? Then we gave her the choice, Arthur said. That's more than she's had in a lot of this. The choice. The agency to decide whether to reclaim a past she might have spent 7 years trying to forget, or never been able to remember clearly enough to grieve properly. Margaret thought about being 7 years old, being taken from a dying mother, being told it was temporary, being moved from home to home while your mama's 6-month miracle failed to materialize. What did that do to a child, to a teenager now, looking back at the girl who'd written, "Please don't take my box," on every surface she could reach? 2 weeks passed. Margaret filled the time by carefully cleaning every item from the storage unit. She hand-washed clothes that had sat in sealed boxes for 7 years, treating them with the gentleness she'd used on her own daughter's baby clothes decades ago. She organized the drawings chronologically, watching Lily's artistic skill develop over those early years. She read every report card, every teacher's note, every scrap of paper that showed a little girl learning to write her name. Arthur built a new box for the special items. The box Lily had decorated herself had deteriorated too much to safely transport. He used cedar wood, sanded smooth, and together they carefully transferred Lily's crayon words, photographing each side of the original box and recreating the drawings on the new one as faithfully as possible. It was painstaking work, but it felt necessary. If they were going to return this to Lily, they would return it whole, cared for, honored. The call came on a Tuesday evening. Jill Morrison again, her voice carrying something that might have been cautious optimism. Mrs. Chen, Mr. Chen, I have an update. I spoke with Lily's caseworker, who spoke with Lily. She wants to see the contents. She was very emotional about it, according to her caseworker. She remembers the box. She remembers writing on it. She thought everything had been thrown away when her mother's apartment was cleared out. Margaret's hand flew to her mouth. She remembers. Yes, and she'd like to meet you, both of you, if you're willing. Of course, Arthur said immediately. When, where, whatever works for her. Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, at the DCS office on West Washington. Lily will be there with her current foster mother and her caseworker. You can bring whatever items you feel are appropriate. I should mention, Jill's voice softened, I should mention that Lily is aware her mother died. She was told when she was 8, about a year after being placed in foster care. But she's never had any of her mother's belongings, never had anything physical to connect to those memories. What you're bringing her it's significant. After the call, Margaret went to the garage where they'd stored everything from the unit. She stood among the boxes, trying to decide what to bring to a first meeting. Everything? That might be overwhelming. Just the special box? That felt incomplete. "We take it all," Arthur said from the doorway, reading her mind as he'd done for 47 years. "We load up the truck, and we take every box, every bag, every piece." We let her decide what she wants, what she's ready for. We give her the choice. Saturday arrived with Arizona heat that made the air shimmer above the asphalt. Margaret dressed carefully, as if for church or court, occasions that demanded respect. Arthur loaded the truck with a precision he'd once used for construction materials, making sure nothing could shift or fall during the drive. The DCS office was a low building, beige stucco and tinted windows, indistinguishable from a dozen other institutional structures in Phoenix. Inside, the air conditioning was aggressive, making Margaret shiver after the parking lot heat. A receptionist directed them to a conference room. They waited, surrounded by boxes they'd hauled up from the truck. Margaret's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She kept thinking about the purple crayon words. "Please don't take my box. Mama said she's coming back." Mama hadn't come back. But maybe, in some small way, these boxes could. The door opened. A woman in her 40s entered first. Professional clothes, kind eyes, the slightly weary look of someone who'd seen too much and still chose to care. "Mr. and Mrs. Chen, I'm Carol Martinez, Lily's caseworker. Thank you for doing this." Behind her, a younger woman, maybe 30, with nervous energy. "I'm Beth Cooper, Lily's foster mom." And then, a girl, 14 years old, with brown hair pulled into a ponytail, wearing jeans and a purple t-shirt. Thin, watchful, with eyes that held something too old for 14. She stopped in the doorway, staring at the boxes stacked along the conference room wall. "Lily," Margaret said softly. "I'm Margaret. This is Arthur. We're the people who found your mother's storage unit." Lily didn't move. Her eyes traced the boxes, and Margaret watched recognition. The size, the shape, the way they were stacked, maybe even some of the handwriting visible on the sides. "Is that—" Lily's voice was barely above a whisper. "Is that my box?" Margaret lifted the cedar box Arthur had built, the one with Lily's 7-year-old words recreated on every surface. "Your original box was falling apart. We copied everything onto a new one. But all your things from inside, they're all here. Everything your mama saved for you." Lily took a step forward, then another. Her hand reached out, touching the purple crayon words as if they might disappear. "Please don't take my box," she read aloud. I remember writing this. I wrote it over and over because I was scared someone would steal it." "Your mama made sure no one could," Margaret said. "She paid 6 months in advance to keep it safe. She believed she'd come back for you. Come back for this. She believed in miracles." Lily's face crumpled. The teenage mask of composure shattered, revealing the 7-year-old underneath, the child who'd lost her mother and never stopped looking for her. Carol moved to her side immediately, a supporting hand on her shoulder. But Lily shook her head, holding herself together by pure will. Can I look inside?" "Everything here is yours," Arthur said gently. "Every box, every bag, everything we found. It all belongs to you. We just brought it back." They opened the cedar box together, Lily's hands trembling as she lifted out items one by one. The stuffed rabbit came first, and the sound Lily made, half sob, half gasp, sent tears streaming down Margaret's face. "Mr. Whiskers," Lily breathed. "I thought I'd imagined him. I thought maybe I made him up, the way you do with memories when you're little. But he's real. He's real, and he was mine." She buried her face in the threadbare rabbit, breathing in scent that had long since faded, trying to find her mother in worn fabric and loose stitching. Her foster mother, Beth, wrapped an arm around her, letting her cry. "There's more," Margaret said quietly. "So much more.
your clothes organized by age, your schoolwork, your drawings, and your mother's journal.
She wrote about how much she loved you, about how hard she fought to save these pieces of your life together. They spent 2 hours in that conference room. Lily went through box after box, rediscovering a childhood she'd been separated from. She found drawings she didn't remember making, clothes she couldn't possibly still fit but held like treasures, report cards proving she'd existed in a time before everything changed. Margaret showed her the photograph. 6th birthday, mother and daughter, unicorn cake, pure joy. "I remember this," Lily said, holding the frame like it might break. "I remember this day. She made the cake herself, stayed up all night decorating it because the store one was too expensive. She sang to me. She sang happy birthday, and I blew out all 6 candles, and she said I could make a wish." Lily's voice broke. "I wished for a puppy. That was my wish. A puppy. If I'd known, if I'd had any idea." "You were 6, Carol said gently. "You were a child. You were allowed to wish for puppies." "She was dying, and I was wishing for puppies." Lily set down the photograph, covering her face with both hands. "I didn't know. She never told me how sick she was. I knew she was sick, but I thought she'd get better. Everyone said she'd get better." Margaret knelt beside Lily's chair, her old knees protesting, but her heart insisting. "Lily, honey, your mother wanted you to wish for puppies. She wanted you to be a child wishing for child things. That's why she did all this." She gestured at the boxes. "She couldn't control the cancer. She couldn't control what would happen to her. But she could control this. She could make sure you'd have proof of the normal, beautiful childhood she gave you before everything went wrong." Why didn't she come back? The question burst out of Lily like it had been building pressure for 7 years. She said she'd come back. She promised. Why didn't she? Arthur spoke for the first time in an hour, his voice rough with emotion.
"She tried, Lily. She paid for 6 months of storage, believing she'd be well enough to get you back by then. The doctors said she had weeks. She chose to believe in 6-month miracles instead. She didn't give up. Cancer took the choice away from her." Lily stared at him, processing. "She died?" "November 3rd, 2016, Margaret said softly, "about 6 weeks after you went into foster care. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry she didn't get her miracle." The silence stretched. Carol shifted in her seat, clearly wanting to intervene, but recognizing that some moments required witnessing more than managing. Beth kept her arm around Lily, a steady presence without words. Finally, Lily spoke. "I want to read it. The journal. I want to read what she wrote." Margaret had anticipated this. She'd marked certain pages, the ones that would be hardest for a 14-year-old to read. The entries about dying, about lies told to protect, about systems failing and money running out. But she'd also marked the earlier entries, the ones full of ordinary love. Lily's first day of school, her excitement about learning to read, the way she helped care for Mr. Whiskers the cat. "The whole thing is yours," Margaret said. "But maybe some entries are easier to start with than others." We marked the ones about everyday life separately from the ones about the harder parts. Lily took the journal, held it closed for a long moment, then opened to a random page. Her mother's handwriting, cramped, familiar, impossibly precious now. June 15, 2016. "Lily insisted on making me breakfast in bed. She's 7. The breakfast was a granola bar and a juice box arranged on a plate with a flower from the neighbor's yard. She was so proud. I cried, blamed it on the medicine. She hugged me and said it was okay to cry when you don't feel good. Where did she learn to be so kind?" Lily read aloud, her voice steadying as she spoke her mother's words. By the end of the entry, she was crying again, but differently. Not the wild grief of loss, but something softer. Recognition, connection. Proof that she'd been loved in exactly the way she remembered, that her memories weren't lies or wishful reconstructions. They stayed until the office was closing, until the receptionist knocked gently to remind them it was past 5 o'clock. Lily wanted to take everything immediately, but Beth gently pointed out they'd need to make multiple trips. Her car wouldn't fit 17 boxes and bags. "We can deliver them," offered Arthur. "Whatever works best for you. Or you can take what you want now, and we'll bring the rest whenever you're ready." Lily looked at Carol, her caseworker, a question in her eyes. Carol nodded. "We can arrange that. Mr. and Mrs. Chen can bring everything to Beth's house over the next few days. Would that work for everyone?" They exchanged phone numbers, addresses, made plans to deliver the remaining boxes Sunday afternoon. As they prepared to leave, Lily clutching her cedar box and Mr. Whiskers the rabbit, she turned to Margaret and Arthur. "Why did you do this? You could have just kept everything, sold it, thrown it away. Why did you try to find me?" Margaret thought about all the possible answers. Because it was the right thing to do. Because they couldn't imagine keeping what wasn't theirs. Because their own daughter lived far away and they understood something about loss and distance. But what she said was simpler. Because your mother spent her last dollars and her last hopes keeping these things safe for you. We couldn't let that sacrifice mean nothing. We couldn't let her fight to preserve your childhood end in a stranger's garage sale. Lily nodded, processing. Then, with the kind of formality children use for important moments, she held out her hand. "Thank you for bringing my mama back to me." Margaret took the offered hand, then pulled Lily into a hug. The girl stiffened for just a moment, then melted, holding on tight. Over Lily's shoulder, Margaret saw Arthur wiping his eyes with his ever-present handkerchief. They delivered the remaining boxes on Sunday, as promised. Beth's home was modest but warm, in a neighborhood of small houses and large desert yards. Lily helped them carry boxes from the truck, organizing everything in her bedroom with a meticulousness that reminded Margaret of how Rebecca had organized the storage unit. By size, by category, by carefully preserved timeline. "I'm going to read all of it," Lily told them as they prepared to leave. "Every journal entry, every report card note, every piece of paper. I want to know everything about who she was, who I was before." "Before is still part of you," Margaret said. "It doesn't disappear just because the after is different." Over the following weeks, Lily called them 3 times. Once to tell them she'd found a letter her mother had written but never sent, addressed to Lily's first-grade teacher thanking her for patience with a distracted child. Once to ask if they'd found any photographs besides the birthday one. They hadn't, but they went back to the storage unit just to be sure, searching every corner one more time. The third call came late on a Tuesday evening, after 9 o'clock. "Mrs. Chen, it's Lily. I'm sorry to call so late. I needed to tell someone and Beth is at her book club and I couldn't wait." The words tumbled out in a rush. "I found something in the bottom of one of the clothing boxes. An envelope. It was tucked into the lining." "What was in it?" Margaret sat down, waving Arthur over to listen. "A letter. To me. Dated September 13th, 2016, the night before they took me away." Lily's voice wavered. Would you like me to read it to you?" "Only if you want to share it," Margaret said gently. Lily took a shaky breath. "My darling Lily, by the time you read this, you'll be old enough to understand things I couldn't explain to you tonight. Tonight, you're 7 years old, and you're sleeping in your bed with Mr. Whiskers, and you believe I'm going to get better because I told you I would. I'm sorry for that lie, baby. I'm sorry for all the lies. Tomorrow, they're taking you to live with another family for a while. I told you it's temporary. I told you I'll come back. And I mean to. I mean to fight this thing inside me and win and bring you home and have everything go back to normal. But I'm also a realist, and the doctors have given me a timeline that doesn't include miracles. So I'm writing this letter in case the miracle doesn't come, in case you grow up without me. I need you to know none of this was your fault. Not the cancer, not the money problems, not the eviction, not the social workers. You were the best part of every single day I had, even the days I was too sick to get out of bed. Especially those days. You'd come in and tell me about school, about your friends, about the book you were reading. You'd draw me pictures and tape them to the walls until my room looked like an art gallery. You made dying less lonely. I'm leaving you these boxes because I want you to remember the good parts, the birthdays, the ordinary Tuesdays, the way we'd dance in the kitchen while making dinner, the way you'd fall asleep during movies and I'd carry you to bed, which got harder as you got bigger, but I never minded because it meant I got to hold you a little longer. You're going to grow up now without me. I wish I could say that life will be fair to you, that you'll be placed with people who love you the way you deserve. I don't know if that will happen. The system is overwhelmed. Resources are limited. You might move around. You might feel lost. You might feel angry at me for leaving you. Be angry if you need to be. I understand. But also know this. I fought for you until the very end. I used my last working days to arrange this storage, to organize your belongings, to preserve proof that you were loved. When your body is failing and your mind is foggy from pain medication, you don't pack boxes for a child unless that child is everything that matters. You were everything that mattered, Lily. You are, you will be, even when I'm not here to tell you. Somewhere in these boxes, you'll find all the ages you've been. The baby clothes I saved even though we had no storage space. The toddler drawings. The kindergarten projects. Your first report card. I kept it all because I wanted you to see your own timeline, your own growth. Proof that you existed and mattered and learned and changed. One day, you'll be old enough to decide what to do with all this. Keep it, donate it, throw it away. That choice is yours. But I wanted you to have the choice. I wanted you to have the option to look back and see that you came from love, even if that love couldn't protect you from everything. I'm tired now. The writing is getting harder. But before I sleep, I need to say one more thing. Whatever happens to you, wherever you end up, whoever you become, you are enough. You were enough at 6 months old when you couldn't do anything but cry and eat and need me. You're enough now at 7, with your missing teeth and your messy hair and your endless questions. You'll be enough at 15, at 25, at 45, at every age I won't get to see. You are my miracle, Lily Marie Anderson. Even if I don't get the 6-month miracle I'm praying for. Even if I'm gone before this letter finds you. You are the miracle I got, and I'm grateful for every single moment I had with you. I love you more than words can hold. I love you past the end of my life and into whatever comes after. I love you. Mama. The letter ended. For a moment, only silence filled the phone line.
Then Lily spoke, her voice thick with tears, but also something else, something that might have been peace. She did come back, Lily said, not the way she meant to, not the way I needed her to when I was 7, but she came back, through you and Mr. Chen, through these boxes, through this letter. She found a way to come back. Margaret couldn't speak. Her throat had closed completely. Arthur took the phone, his own voice rough. She loved you very much, Lily. That comes through in every word she wrote, every item she saved. She loved you. I know, Lily said. I know that now. For so long, I wondered if maybe I'd done something wrong, if I hadn't been good enough, if that's why everything fell apart. But it wasn't me. It was just life. Bad things happening to people who didn't deserve them, and her trying so hard to leave me something good to hold on to. They talked for another few minutes, making plans for Lily to visit them for lunch the following Saturday. When the call ended,
Margaret sat staring at the phone, trying to process the weight of what they'd just heard. "That letter," she finally said, "that letter was worth every hour we spent searching for her, worth everything." Arthur nodded. A mother's last gift. Delayed 7 years, but it got there. It got there. Saturday's lunch became a regular thing. Every other week, Lily would visit the Chen's home, bringing drawings to show them, journal entries she wanted to discuss, questions about the storage unit and how they'd found everything. She was slowly piecing together her mother's last months, creating a narrative that made sense of why her world had collapsed. Margaret learned that Lily had been in 5 different foster placements in 7 years. The first family had been temporary, waiting for Rebecca to recover. When Rebecca died, Lily was moved to a family who'd seemed promising until they got pregnant and decided they couldn't handle an adopted child plus a biological one. The third placement lasted only 4 months. Personality conflicts, they said, which meant the foster parents couldn't connect with a grieving 8-year-old who'd already lost 2 families. The fourth placement was with a family who primarily fostered teenagers, and 7-year-old Lily, now 8, now 9, was too young, needed too much attention they couldn't provide. By the time she landed with Beth Cooper at age 11, Lily had learned not to unpack completely, not to get too comfortable, not to trust that any placement was permanent. Beth had been different, patient, steady, willing to wait out Lily's walls. But even Beth acknowledged that teenagers in foster care who hadn't been adopted young rarely found permanent placements. Lily was realistic about her future. Age out of the system at 18, find her own way, probably struggle. "But now I have this," Lily said during one lunch, gesturing at a box of photographs she'd brought, pictures Margaret had helped her organize and frame. "I have proof I came from somewhere, that I'm not just a kid who fell through the cracks. I had a mother who loved me enough to fight for me, even when she was dying." Margaret watched this 14-year-old navigate her complicated grief with more wisdom than many adults managed. Lily cried sometimes during their visits, but she also laughed. She talked about school, about friends, about maybe wanting to be a teacher someday, or maybe a social worker like Carol, helping other kids who lost their parents. "I think I'd be good at it," Lily said. "I understand what it's like. I could help them hold on to hope." 3 months after that first meeting at the DCS office, Carol called Margaret with news. "Beth wants to adopt Lily, formally. She's starting the paperwork." Margaret gasped. "Does Lily know?" Beth told her last night. Lily said yes. She said yes immediately. Carol's professional voice cracked slightly. "I've been doing this job for 12 years, Mrs. Chen." I don't often get to see the happy endings. This one matters. When Margaret told Arthur, he cried openly, something he'd done maybe 3 times in their entire marriage. "That girl," he said, wiping his eyes, "that girl deserves a home." The adoption was finalized in December, 7 months after Margaret and Arthur had first opened a storage unit and found a child's purple crayon plea. Lily invited them to the courthouse ceremony, a small gathering, just Beth, Carol, Jill Morrison, who'd started the whole connection, and the Chens. The judge asked Lily if she understood what adoption meant. Lily, 15 now, stood straight and answered clearly. "It means I have a family again. It means I get to stay." "It means you get to stay," the judge confirmed, signing the papers that made Lily officially Lily Anderson Cooper. Afterward, at Beth's house for a small celebration, Lily pulled Margaret and Arthur aside. "I need to show you something," she said, leading them to her room. The space was teenager messy, but also carefully curated. Posters on the walls, books stacked on the desk, and on every surface, pieces of her reclaimed past. Framed drawings, the stuffed rabbit Mr. Whiskers on her bed, the cedar box Arthur had built displayed on her dresser like a treasure. But what Lily wanted to show them was new, a shadow box frame she'd created, displaying her mother's letter alongside the photograph from her 6th birthday. "I read the letter every time I forget that I'm enough," Lily said quietly.
Every time I feel like I'm too much trouble or too broken or too anything, I read it and I remember that someone loved me like that someone fought to leave me proof. She turned to face them, this girl who'd lost everything at 7 and was slowly building something new. You gave me that proof. You could have thrown it all away or sold it or just kept it and never tried to find me. But you cared enough to search. You cared enough to give me back my history. Your mother gave you your history, Margaret said. We just delivered it. No, Lily shook her head firmly. My mother saved it. You delivered it. Both things mattered. Without her, there'd be nothing to save. Without you, I never would have received it. You work together, across time, across death, across all the reasons it should have been impossible. She was right, Margaret realized. Rebecca Anderson's 6-month miracle hadn't come in the form she'd prayed for. She hadn't healed. She hadn't gotten Lily back. She hadn't lived to see her daughter grow up. But in a storage unit in Phoenix, in boxes paid for with her last dollars, in purple crayon words begging, "Please don't take my box," she'd planted seeds of a different miracle. The miracle of evidence, of proof, of love made tangible in saved objects and written words. And 7 years later, 2 strangers had watered those seeds, returning them to soil where they could finally grow. Thank you, Lily said simply, for bringing my mama back, for helping me understand I came from love, even when everything else was falling apart. Margaret hugged her tight. This girl who'd written desperate pleas on cardboard at 7 and now stood steady at 15, ready to believe in staying, in belonging, in the possibility that good things could last. You're going to be okay, Margaret whispered. You're going to be more than okay. And Lily, who'd learned early not to trust promises, who'd moved through 5 homes in 7 years, who'd lost everything that mattered when she was too young to understand why, Lily nodded against Margaret's shoulder and whispered back, I know that now. Outside, the December sun set over Phoenix, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Inside, a 15-year-old girl celebrated her adoption, surrounded by people who chose her, holding on to a stuffed rabbit from a childhood she'd thought was lost forever. In a cedar box on her dresser, purple crayon words still pleaded. Please don't take my box. Mama said she's coming back. Mama had come back in every way that mattered. Through strangers who cared, through preserved memories, through a letter written in the dark when death was certain, but love was even more sure. She'd come back, and she'd brought with her the most important message a child could receive. You are enough. You are loved. You are the miracle. Lily Anderson Cooper would carry that message forward into a future her mother would never see, but had fought to protect. She would unpack completely in Beth's home. She would trust this placement to last. She would believe, finally, in the possibility of staying. And sometimes, late at night, she would open the cedar box and touch the purple words and whisper to a mother 7 years gone. I got your box, Mama. I got your letter. I got your message. I know I'm enough. I know you loved me. I know you came back. And in the silence that followed, in the space between memory and hope, in the evidence of love that survives even death, she could almost hear an answer. I told you I'd come back, baby. I told you I would find a way.